Welcome back to another episode of What Do You Got? As you can see, I'm wearing the merch. The Hoosiers did it this weekend, boys. They pulled off the miracle in Eugene. What is going on with Kurt Signetti and the boys?
Well, they just looked like the complete better team. And my most impressive thing about Indiana is I thought so normally when you have like a worse team, they go in there and it's like they might need a turnover or two. And when the turnover happens to them, they're normally cooked. But that did not happen. Mendoza threw that pick and they came back and just still looked like the better team and dominated probably the game even more from them. So I thought that was the most impressive. And Indiana's for real.
Yeah, Indiana looked fantastic. I think plain and simple, they went into Oregon, Eugene, great atmosphere. They had Coach, why am I forgetting his name, man? Coach Dan Lanning out there in game day shirtless, and Indiana walked in, and they kind of, minus what you said, Baldwin, with the Mendoza turnover early, they kind of dominated that football game and won that thing and showed they were the better team.
Yeah, they could have easily won that game by 17 if Mendoza doesn't throw that pick six. They held Oregon to one offensive touchdown and 80 yards on the ground, which is unreal considering how that offense has looked so far this year. And yeah, they dominated them. They looked like the better team. It was pretty close in the first half. But once you got to that fourth quarter, they ran away with it. But even when it was close, it looked like Indiana was legit, and they certainly might be. Impressive win, biggest win of the weekend. The big dog over a touchdown underdogs, and they ended Oregon's longest home win streak in the country with ease in an electric way. Speaking of Indiana, we'll get into it a little bit more later, but Kurt Signetti, what he's done with that program is absolutely unbelievable. In his second year, he obviously took him to the playoffs in the first year. All those questions, can he win the big game, which in my opinion is unfair after one season. I get he lost to two very good teams last year. Still destroyed all of them, every other team. They're preseason ranked 20th after making the playoffs. The disrespect was there all year, and he holds control in that locker room and got his boys ready to go for that one.
My favorite part of the game was, well, there's actually two parts. The one where he got a warning because how much he was raging. I thought that was pretty funny, throwing up his arms, and that was a penalty, so I understood him. And my second one was when he got hot mic'd and was yelling at his player after an injury to get his ass up and just telling him basically be stronger, even though the dude's just injured. He didn't care that his player was injured, which I'm sure happens a lot, but it was cool to see it on the hot mic.
Hey, you got to get your boys fired up to play, and he certainly did that. So even when they're down, he's getting them fired up in whatever way he can. Cool, calm, and collected in that halftime interview. I don't know if you guys saw that, but just some classic Kurt Signetti nonsense. And he kept his boys ready, and they really put belt to ass that game. Jay, you got anything else?
Nah, y'all pretty much covered it. Great performance by Indiana. Pretty much all there is to it.
Then we'll move on to our next game. Is Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns back?
I am not willing to say that yet. Did Texas finally get a big win? Yes. But I thought this was more of exposing Oklahoma's run game and them really not beating anyone so far. Oklahoma beat Michigan, sure, but it's a good win. But I think also John Mateer was injured too, so I can't fully say Texas is back. I think that's a little getting a little aggressive there. But what I will say is the O-line protected a little better and Arch played a little better, which is a good sign to see if you're a Texas fan. But I don't think you can say Texas is back yet.
Yeah, Bolden, I think you bring up a good point. They had one very nice win, yes, against Oklahoma. They played Ohio State tough, but I felt like today was the first time we've seen Arch Manning look like, not today, Saturday was the first time we've seen Arch Manning having fun on the football field. He looked to play loose, play with that swagger that, that last name brings, and I feel like he finally started to play with that. And what you said, Bolden, about Texas stopping the run game, Was that more of them figuring out Oklahoma or them showing we're a really good football team? We're gonna be all right. We need a couple weeks to put together. We got it together. Everything's gonna be just fine. I think Texas. I think Texas might. I can't say back, but they look pretty good in a big win against Oklahoma rivalry game as well. Always good to pick up those wins.
Did Texas dominate Oklahoma? Yes. Did Texas dominate the number 6 team in the country? No. Like you said earlier, Baldwin, Oklahoma has beaten nobody but Michigan. And as we saw, Michigan clearly overrated at 15 as they got their butts spanked by USC this past weekend, who, that's a different story. They're a total wild card in the Big Ten now. But Oklahoma, yeah, they hadn't proven anything. But to go in there in a rivalry game, in a bounce-back scenario, and bounce back in a really tough way, really gritty way, I liked what I saw of the Longhorns. I think Arch is still holding the ball a little too long. But part of me wants to give him the benefit of the doubt that that'll get better as the season goes on. I mean, it's his first year starting. Their schedule is not insanely difficult. Now, they have 2 losses, but one of them's non-conference. So they run the table. There's a good chance they're in the SEC championship. With another loss in the SEC, it's gonna, they need some help to get in there, and if they don't get in there, they're not making the playoff. But they got Kentucky, Mississippi State, and then they host Vanderbilt, which sneaky game. And then they go to Athens, always a tough place to play, and then host A&M at the end of the year. I think the 2 winnable games that jump off are Vanderbilt and Texas A&M because they have them at home. That's significant. Playing at Athens is going to be very, very tough. Not saying the other ones won't be tough, but it's nice to have them at home. Going to Athens, difficult place to play, difficult team to play. And at that point in the season, Georgia might also be fighting for a spot in the SEC championship game. So I'm really interested when we get to that point. It's not for another month, but I like the way Texas played. And I'm not ready to give up on them yet. As much as it hurts to say, I'm not ready to give up on them quite yet. As you can see, I'm wearing the shirt. I think they can run the table. I think they can do something still. I'm not ready to give up on the Longhorns, and I'd watch out for them when November hits and that tough part of the schedule gets to them.
So, I mean, if they beat Vandy and then Georgia's before A&M, right? So, let's say they just have to win out, which I don't know how they're going to – I don't think they're going to be able to win out. I mean, Vandy I think they can get. But even like State, is that game at home? That could be a scary game for them with how they played.
At State, at Kentucky, at Georgia.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I don't know which one they'll drop, but I feel like they'll drop one in there. And if they don't, obviously A&M looks legit, so – that's a tough last game. But, I mean, if it comes down to one game for you to get in the SEC championship or college football playoff, I mean, I would consider that a success for them with how they started their season.
Yeah, I really think they're going to be able to get that W in Athens. I think they're going to be able to take care of Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. I think it's really going to come down to that rivalry game against Texas A&M. And I think Texas A&M has looked fantastic this year. I think they kind of got bailed out a little bit against Notre Dame, but I think they've only gotten stronger and have only looked better since. So I think that claiming Texas is going to make the playoffs is a little far-fetched from anyone, but they're definitely back, and they're right firmly in playoff contention with a huge win over Oklahoma, a statement win to revitalize their season.
Yeah, I mean, this is the fun in the 12-team playoffs. So some people say that regular season games mean less. Well, now that Texas-Georgia game is going to be a play-in game to get into the playoffs. And I think if they win that, the Texas A&M game is going to be a play-in game to get into the playoffs. Just enhancing what's on the line, a chance to go to the playoffs and make a run. Because obviously most SEC teams that make it, they do have a shot at winning a few games and getting there. All right, fellas. James Franklin got canned. Jay, you got an apology to say to Drew Aller now that he's injured? You feel obligated to apologize to that guy?
No, I don't. I don't. Just because he's a little hurt, I don't think makes him any better at football or proves he's not as bad as I think he is. Still don't think he's very good, so I'm not going to apologize for that. I mean, I'll apologize if it proves me wrong, but faking an injury doesn't prove me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, James Franklin out opens up a big job. My only thing is, so James Franklin had like a top 10 buyout, and it's like obviously, I think I saw his record. This isn't completely accurate, but I think it's around like 38-8 over the last like 3 years or something. And firing a coach like obviously it's been awful, like losing these 3 straight games in a row, like especially the last two. But still, just firing a guy like that mid-season, thinking you can do that much better, like we'll see. But I think James Franklin is probably like a top 15 coach, and willing to pay him 50 mil is it's definitely ballsy, I would say. So I feel like Penn State has to have someone in mind. Um, who would your guys' pick be if you had to choose one guy to be Penn State's head coach tomorrow?
I want to say one thing real quick. Shout out Josh Pate and Baldwin. I knew you were going to say that because I saw that clip earlier on in the day. However, what I will say, I agree with most of the stuff he does say. But when you're a program that's expected to compete for a national championship every single year and you're not even close to beating a good team in the last 10 years, at some point you got to move on and take the chance that someone else can get over that hump, because they gave him 9 years to do it. And he couldn't do it. Not one time since that Ohio State win in 2016, he beat a top 5 team. How do you expect to compete for a national championship when in 9 years you can't win one top 5 game? That is the only thing that I would disagree with you there. If I had to pick one, I think Matt Rule takes the job in an instant. I don't know if Penn State necessarily offers him right or as their first choice. I think they are going to do whatever in their power to go after Curt Cignetti. I know Curt Cignetti said he has everything he needs to win at Indiana, but obviously this decision is not going to be made till after the season. So if Indiana ends up losing in the first round of the playoffs, they don't win the Big Ten championship, they don't show too much promise of getting over that hump. I get it's only year 2, but you go to a school that has the resources, that's proven to be a historic program a top 10 program in college football history. It's easier to get recruits. It's easier to fund money to pay these recruits. And you got a lot of people in that room that know how the operation works, how to win games, how to be a successful program. Add Curt Cignetti on top of that. They're going to offer that guy a blank check. He might end up being the highest paid coach in college football history when that time comes around.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Penn State firing James Franklin now means this next coach has to go win a national championship for Penn State. That pressure is going to be huge. This decision has to be right. You can't get this wrong and then lead to what could be the demise of Penn State football. You have to get this pick to back up James Franklin. And I do think that Curt Cignetti would be the right choice. And I think he would be absurd not to take it no matter anything. This is a dream job. Right, this is one of the elite jobs in college football, and I think that Curt Cignetti 100% should take this job. I think it's either him or Matt Rule, and I think it will be Curt Cignetti as well.
Yeah, I mean with Curt, I think it does depend on the season. If he somehow wins 2 playoff games, goes to the semifinals, goes to the national championship, I don't think he leaves. But in the case that he doesn't win 2 playoff games, I think he sees an opportunity that doesn't come around all that often, and he jumps right on it.
I mean, the only thing about this whole situation is like I think we all view like Penn State as a really big job, but I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but James Franklin kind of made Penn State. Like they might have been like decent, but he definitely made them into the program they are. So it's almost like I don't know. I don't know if the hierarchy of coaches view it that high. I mean, I'm sure they view it as like it's the best job open so far. But what happens if the Florida job comes open? Is the Florida job perceived as higher? So it's like.
No. I'm going to say something right now. James Franklin brought him back, but they're in the top 8 for most wins ever in college football. Penn State as a program.
Yeah, so they got some history.
Jerry Sandusky had Penn State doing great things until the allegations came around, and they had all the sanctions, and James Franklin was able to get him over the sanctions, so that's why he was glorified. Penn State's a great program. They're a top 10 program ever, and that's a phenomenal job to have that I think a lot of people would be blessed to have that opportunity. So that's why I think they're going to go with that approach rather than the unproven. The only unproven Group of 5 jump I can see is Alex Golish, but I think he's going to be 3rd, 4th, or 5th on that list. I think they'd go Signetti, Matt Rule, or Eli Drinkowitz, or even Clark Lee at Vandy. I know Clark Lee probably doesn't want to leave, but I think they'd go those 2 guys before they would go Alex Golish. I think Alex Golish should be around 5th on that list, ahead of any coordinator that would try and make the jump. And you know what? I think he would be 6th on the list. I think Manny Diaz would be ahead of him, considering he was there 2 years ago as the DC. He's already got the connections there. He knows how the building works, how he wants to run his team. And if he can get Duke to that 9-win season this year, he's proven he can do good things at a big-time program, or at not a big-time program, because obviously he had his run at Miami. It didn't go great, but he kind of hit the reset button, and I think he would be ahead of Alex Golish as well. I think those are the top 5 guys that I think they're going to try and go get in that order, and then Alex Golish should be that 6th guy.
Baldwin, you mentioned the Florida job, and I think that Penn State, without a question, will be the best job available this cycle. No questions about it. But that Florida job, I would say, is obviously number 2, right? And I think that job is only a matter of time before it is open. Who do you guys think could take that job? Because, Tom, you mentioned someone that I think will be the next head coach at Florida, and that's Alex Golish. The success he's had in the state of Florida, keeping him home. I would love to see him and DJ Lagway, if DJ Lagway did choose to stay. But I think that Alex Golish will be the next head coach of Florida going into the next year's season. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, another situation, everyone keeps talking about Lane Kiffin, but my mind immediately goes to Eli Drinkowitz. I mean, the fact that he is changing laws in the state of Missouri to get more recruits there, to get more NIL deals there, I don't think he's going to feel obligated to stay there, because he knows if he can do that at Missouri, I think he knows he can easily do that at Florida. So I think they would go for him, considering he has that SEC experience. They'd keep him in conference and try and turn them around, because he's proven he could do that at a Power 5 level. Are you scheming up the mic over there, Baldy, or should we move on?
I've said my piece.
All right. Well, let's get into College Football Edition Contender or Pretender, where we name each team that is having a good season or could potentially make the playoffs, and do they have a chance to win the national championship? Not can they make the playoff, can they compete for a national championship? We will start out with Texas Tech.
All right, Texas Tech. I mean, me and you, Tom, were talking about it earlier, how like a Big 12 team, because you were telling me like Oklahoma or even Texas when they were getting the Big 12 would always come up with a loss. And I was thinking about that, and I was looking at Texas Tech's schedule, and like I think they're going to be favored. And I don't know what game would be less than like 7 points they'd be favored by. So they're going to be undefeated, possibly getting a bye going to the playoff. So then it becomes the question of like win your first game, then all of a sudden you're in the semis. So then, like, I think they just naturally have a pretty good route at making a good run at it. Based off your standards of making a contender or pretender, I'm still going to go pretender, because I think at the end of the day they can't beat like an Ohio State just yet. But I think they're going to be – I would have in my Final Four teams as of today. So, but I don't think they win it, so I'll call them a pretender.
Yeah, Baldwin, I love exactly everything you just said. I think that they're very, very talented, right? They have all this new roster with NIL money and experienced quarterback in a weak Big 12. They do have to play the Colorado Buffaloes, so that's probably where they're going to pick up their loss for the season. Without question, Colorado Buffaloes just pulled off a big upset against Iowa State. Rushed the field. I was a little sad, not going to lie. But getting back to the topic, I do like Texas Tech as a contender to make the Final Four. But for Tom's criteria to win the national championship, I don't see them beating one of the big dogs in Ohio State or in Miami, or maybe even a Notre Dame or a Texas A&M. I would say pretender in that case.
Yeah, I'm going to go pretender as well. I think you used a key word there, Baldwin, yet. They clearly do have all the resources. They are turning it around. What you were saying earlier on them being favored in every game, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win every game. If I had to guess, during those Oklahoma years where they were dominating the Big 12, there were at least one or two seasons where they were favored in every single game that season, and they pulled out with a loss. It's very hard to go undefeated for 12 weeks in college football, no matter what conference you're in, no matter who you play, to win every single game each week, keeping in control of your locker room is very tough. However, if Texas Tech does make the Big 12 championship, which is looking like they will, they have to be the favorites there. But if they sneak into the playoffs, they better hope they get a bye, because I don't think they could beat one of those bottom tier SEC teams that make the playoffs, or a Big Ten team, unless it happens to be USC. I do think they can hold their own in that matchup.
See, the only I basically agree with everything you said. Like, obviously, hard to control your locker room. My only disagreement with you would be I do think they can beat a bottom tier SEC team. Like, I do think they're that good. But yeah, that'd be my only disagreement. Like, who are the bottom tier SEC teams I could possibly get in right now? Like, Ole Miss would probably be considered one. I think they could hang around with them. I mean, Bama at this rate's looking like a top tier SEC team. But let's say like Texas sneaks in. I think they can hang around with Texas. But we'll see. But that's where I think, like, if they don't get a bye, they definitely don't win it all. But I think they can win one or two games in the playoff. I do think they're that good.
We'll get into what's going to be my favorite question of the day. Notre Dame.
All right, Notre Dame. Every single power rating I've seen, whether that's like Josh Pates or other power ratings I follow on Twitter, they're power rated. ESPN FPI has them in the top 10. So looking at that, you're like, they still have the talent and the team's there to compete for it. Matter of fact is they can't have a single hiccup along the way. But if they don't have a hiccup along the way, they beat USC this week, and they get into the college football playoff, I think they're right there with any team. So in that case, assuming they win out, I'm calling them a contender, and I do think they'll win out. If they're in the playoff, I could easily see them going back to national championship, and I don't know who they'd be playing. I mean, I think against Ohio State, against Oregon, those would be close games, but I think they're going to make it, so I'm calling them a contender.
I grew up, I hated Notre Dame. Then never liked them. Didn't like them at all. Until week one, C.J. Carr. I bet on C.J. Carr, the great white hope. He's going to bring Notre Dame football to the promised land. And he did not win that game. So ever since then, it's like, man, I really don't like Notre Dame. I fell for the C.J. Carr hype. But I'm back on the C.J. Carr hype train. I think Notre Dame are absolutely contenders for the college football national championship this year. They have lost to Miami, who has looked dominant by one score, and they were a good hold and a holding penalty away from possibly beating a fantastic Texas A&M team. Right now, I don't think that where they are in the rankings currently I think that's a little too high, right? In the AP poll, every poll, they're way too high. They should be lower because of what their current record and resume is. With their brand and with those two very, very quality losses, I think when Notre Dame runs the table, I think they're absolutely going to be in. And with a little bit of adversity early in the season, a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, I could see Notre Dame very easily hoisting the national championship come the end of the football season, being the last team standing. I absolutely believe in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish as contenders this year.
Why does the world talk about Notre Dame so much when they're down 0-2 on the record book and they haven't won a national championship in over 35 years? You want to know a fun fact? Colorado's won a national championship more recently than Notre Dame. There are very few teams that get associated with Blue Bloods that haven't done shit in the last 40 years that they give glory to like they do with Notre Dame. Florida's won a national championship more recently than them. If they started out 0-2, nobody would be like, Florida, playoff. No one would mention them. Clemson went 1-3. No one's talking about them. Playoff.
It just doesn't happen. But for some reason, we group Notre Dame because they've had a few good seasons playing absolutely nobody with these blue bloods like Ohio State. They're not Ohio State. They're not Alabama. I don't care if they've played in a national championship because they couldn't win a big game either, just like Penn State. So if Penn State played that schedule, we would talk about them the same exact way. It blows my mind how much we have talked about them since going into week 3 after they started 0-2 on how much they can affect college football. Because the whole conversation was, can they run the table? And it's so possible because they play absolutely nobody. USC's their hardest game, and they're favored by 9 points this week. So even if they do run the table, do I think they should be in? You know what? I do. But they will not compete for that national championship. They won't. I get they hung with Miami week 1. They hung with Texas A&M, which historically is not even considered a top 5 SEC team. That's another one. They've never done anything either, and they've tricked themselves into believing they have. So just because they lost to 2 very good teams, one of them at home when they were 6.5-point favorites, I don't want to talk about Notre Dame until they win 2+ playoff games, and I don't see a world where that happens.
Notre Dame was playing in the national title last year. Talk about winning 2+ playoff games. They did it last year, dude. They competed in the
Fraudulent. It was fraudulent.
How is it fraudulent? They win.
Beating Kirby is fraudulent.
You're playing Georgia with a backup quarterback, and you're playing Drew Aller, who's the worst quarterback to ever play at Penn State in my lifetime, and that includes Matt McGloin.
The Natty came down to the last drive, and Ohio State was beating every team by 20 before that.
Ohio State was up by 20. Ohio State was up by 20 and running the entire game, and they were playing the clock. That's the only reason Notre Dame came back. They started playing passive. If you wanted Ohio State to go foot to the pedal, they would have destroyed them by 30. That game was never close. I don't want anyone to say that game was ever close.
Who's not going foot to the pedal in the Natty? What are you talking about?
They kicked a field goal down 2 possessions with 8 minutes left in the national championship. I get they missed it, and I get if they made it, it would have been different. Why would you not go for it? I understand it was 4th and 13, but it's a 2-possession game. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back twice with 8 minutes left. That was a terrible decision, and there's no way I can even see the other side of that.
Well, the other side is you make it, and then you get the ball back, and then you get to go win the game.
Everyone talks about Dan Campbell because he goes for it on 4th down every time, but you were down by 16 points in the national championship with 8 minutes to go. You kicked a field goal and then go down and score, and you're still down. You might not get the ball back. Why are you kicking that? Why not go for it and make it a 1-possession game and at least try? They gave up at that point in the game once they tried to make it a 3-possession game with 8 minutes to go. That was absolutely terrible. And everyone's like, Marcus Freeman's a great coach, and Dan Campbell's not. Why? That's another thing talking about Dan Campbell, because he goes for it on 4th down. That's what they do. Lane Kiffin, that's what they do. They go for it on 4th down. And when you're on the biggest stage and you kick a field goal down by 2 possessions with 8 minutes to go, that is inexcusable, and you're giving up on the game right then and there.
Dude, how'd you get to Matt Campbell? Dan Campbell.
Because everyone says Dan Campbell, whenever Dan Campbell doesn't convert on 4th down, he's not a good coach, and nobody talks about Notre Dame kicking that field goal, literally just throwing the game away.
But it almost paid off. Like, let's say they make it. All right? So then what were they down, 16? So that gets them down to 13.
I'm really excited for you to go through this, by the way, because I will go through
So they're down 16 with 8 minutes. Let's say they make it. Doesn't get blocked. Down 13. All right? So they eventually get the ball back and go score a tutty. And when you're already down this much in the game, you're going to need your defense at some point. And that's what they did. They left up their defense. What was that? It was 3rd down play. One play goes a different way, and all of a sudden you get the ball back and have a chance of going to win the game. So that's where I don't agree with the logic.
You realize that not making the field goal is the same as going for it and not converting.
Yeah, but you're not.
They got the ball. They got the ball 1 time after that possession. So they physically, even if they went for it and got it, that would have been their only chance that they could have possibly won the game because they didn't stop them on on Ohio State's last possession. So they never had an opportunity to go out and tie the game. Let's say they go for it and get it. Now they stop Ohio State. Now they get the ball back and they score a touchdown, which they did, and convert the 2-point conversion, which they did. Now it's a tie game. They kick the field goal. They stop Ohio State. They're still down by 2 possessions. Ohio State has to punt. Notre Dame scores. They're still down. And then they couldn't stop Ohio State. So even though Ohio State, they had a chance to stop them, they didn't. But if they went for it and got it, they would have tied. They could have tied the game.
No, yeah, no, I think it's definitely a debatable decision, but it is 4th and 13, like you said, which I didn't even remember. So I think it's a debatable decision, but I don't think like that makes Marcus Freeman a bad coach, because that's like 4th and 13. What are your chances of versus you kick the field goal, and if you somehow make the comeback and get the stops, you have a chance at winning instead of just tying it. So that's my thing. I get it. You're saying what if they do get it, but 4th and 13. Riley Leonard, they run the ball with him. It's the only way how they scored. And they eventually started throwing towards the end when they're down by that much. But I don't know.
It was physically impossible for them to win because they didn't stop Ohio State on the last drive. And now let's say the game is tied and Ohio State's driving. Well, even at that, Ohio State, they would have had to kick a game-winning field goal, but at least they had a chance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's move on. Is Indiana a contender?
Absolutely. They just went into Eugene and picked up an absolute massive win, ending Oregon's biggest, largest home winning streak in the country. I think absolutely, yes, they're a contender. I think that was a huge win for Kurt Signetti, kind of eliminated all the doubt he had after one season. I think it's crazy to say they're not contenders at this point in the season, especially after that blowout win against Illinois, who Illinois is not going to be a college football playoff team, but they're a really good football team, and they smacked them around.
Yeah, they were a pretender last year, but they are a contender this year. I mean, all you needed to see was last week going to compete with a big dog on their home field, flying all those miles. That's all I needed to see. My only hesitant part, I am still calling them a contender. My only hesitant part would be they beat an Oregon team that was kind of struggling early on against Penn State, which we've seen what's happened to them, but that's kind of Penn State loses the big game and kind of falls off. So, I mean, I hate to use that against like Oregon as a team. But in Indiana's win, but that'd be my only hesitant around Indiana. But I'm still gonna call them a contender.
Yeah, they're absolutely a contender. I mean, I picked Oregon to win the national championship preseason. They went in and made them look like they were a team ranked 15, 25th, you know? And I think Oregon's still a top 10 team. And you can't take that win away from them even if they're not, because they've won 15 straight games at home, and Indiana went in there and beat the brakes off of them. So I think they're absolutely a contender. And I believe Indiana doesn't have too much difficulty left on their schedule, if I'm not wrong. I think they play Penn State, might even be their hardest game, and now they have the backup quarterback, a new coach. We don't know what's going on with them. So Indiana has a good shot to run the table and finish the season undefeated going into that Big Ten championship.
Yeah, I saw the other day, or it might have been today, that Miami and Indiana, I think it was those two teams, they're going to be favored. I mean, I know we talked about this earlier with Texas Tech, how being favored doesn't mean you're going to win every game, but Indiana and Miami are going to be favored in every game, so they have a good shot going undefeated, like you said, going to that Big Ten championship, which will be for a bye, I'm guessing, who's ever there with them, Ohio State or Oregon. So, yeah, it should be interesting.
Well, with the new rules, too, you can have multiple teams in a conference getting a bye. So,
yeah,
if it's them versus Ohio State, both undefeated, I think both of those teams are locks for byes no matter what. But to get that number 1 seed, obviously we got to see where the rest of the chips fall, but pretty big advantage. All right, Texas A&M, are they a contender or a pretender?
Well, I put them. They just beat Notre Dame in week 2, and I have Notre Dame as a contender. So it would feel silly to put them as pretenders, right? They kind of have to be contenders, but I don't think they are. I think they peaked earlier in the year when they beat Notre Dame. I think they're gonna run into. I think they're gonna lose to Texas. I don't think they're gonna get into the college football playoff. and I think Marcel Reed's a good quarterback, but I don't think he can take it to that next level. I think he's an 8-3, 8-4, 8-4, 9-3, 10 and whatever, 10 win kind of quarterback. Yeah, wow, that was tough right there. Wow.
No, Jay, I completely agree because I have them as pretenders too, and it's crazy. Maybe that's my Notre Dame bias saying that Notre Dame, but I think Notre Dame started off really slow on the defensive end, and like I think Arkansas was Notre Dame's most impressive win. But that kind of makes me want to call Texas A&M a pretender because looking at their schedule, they played no one else so far. Like Florida, good win, but not Florida isn't all that. So I just really don't think they've beaten anyone else yet. I just think I need to see a little more. Like they could easily be contenders because obviously going into Notre Dame, like Tom said earlier, being 6.5-point underdogs is very impressive. But I think I just need to see a little more to fully call them a contender.
I'm pretty indifferent on this one. I'm a huge fan of Mike Elko. I am a huge fan of KC Conception, their number one receiver. I think their receiving core is unbelievable. I think their defense is unbelievable. My question mark is Marcel Reed as well. I think he's very tough to game plan against. I think he's very good, but I think he's a little inconsistent. He misses a few throws when he needs to make them. I think them being a contender is going to come down to the Missouri game. I think Texas will beat Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M will beat LSU. So now we're sitting around that 1 or 2 loss season, and I think that sits on the shoulders when they go to Columbia, Missouri on November 8th. I think Texas A&M is a contender. I'm not taking anything away from them. That Auburn game looked a little shaky. But they beat the brakes off Mississippi State. They beat the brakes off of Florida, who was riding a hot hand into that game. I understand they were home, which is a huge home field advantage. They've proven that they are legit in my eyes. I think they're very clearly the best team in the SEC right now simply because Alabama did lose that game to Florida State, and I understand it was week 1. And I think Alabama is very good. But Texas A&M is playing like the best team in the SEC right now, and I'm very excited to see what they do against competition. We'll stay in the SEC. Is Ole Miss a contender or a pretender?
All right, I'm kind of going with the same Texas A&M strat. I think I need to see more. I mean, beat LSU at home, good win. I mean, it's number 3 ranked team in the country. Obviously, LSU's offense hasn't looked the best, but I just think I need to see more from the team. And I think this upcoming week we'll see a lot. First true road test, both for the team and D2 quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. So I think like this week, even if Ole Miss loses the game but competes, I think it'll be a big tell on how true they are. I think the defense is still a little shaky, too. I mean, the offense has been completely fine, even though what the hell happened last week? Only winning by 3 points against Washington State. That was completely awful. So I don't know what was happening there. But yeah, I think this next week, what happens in the Georgia game, I think we'll be able to give ourselves a more complete answer.
I 100% agree with you, Baldwin. I'm torn. Like one time you watch them play, versus LSU, you're like, wow, it's a really, really good football team. Then you watch them play against Wazoo, and you're like, this might be the same Ole Miss that there was last year, a really good football team, but they just couldn't quite get it done. You know, they couldn't quite make the playoffs. They couldn't quite get over that hump. But this year, I'm still torn. I really think, like what Baldwin said, it's gonna come down to this week. I think if they can keep it close and build that confidence within that, we're actually a really, really good football team. Like we just hung with Georgia, a perennial powerhouse. Like we're good. I don't know. I can't give you a definitive answer. I love Trinidad Chambliss. I think that he's a fantastic player. He's fun to watch. He's exciting. That offense is always fun to watch and exciting. High-paced, high-flying under Lane Kiffin. But I really can't give you a definitive yes or no. So I'm going to put them as a meh.
Last season, even after the Kentucky loss, even after the LSU loss, everyone was saying once they beat Georgia, Ole Miss is a contender for the national championship. There's 2 things Lane Kiffin's going to do. He's not going to have his team ready for the bad games. And I think we saw that against Arkansas early on in the season. And I think we saw that last weekend against Washington State. Now, luckily, this wasn't Kentucky. who would be significantly better than Washington State, and I think we would lose that game. We played Kentucky close again this season. Before last week, people were talking about Ole Miss as a clear top 5 team, and now they're not. I'm not going to look at last week too deep. They escaped there with a win. They did their job. Did it look pretty? Absolutely not. Did they have the worst win of the weekend? Probably. But they go to Athens, and they go to Oklahoma, and then they host South Carolina, and then Florida, and then Mississippi State. I think if they go 11-1, even if they lose to Georgia this week, put on a good showing, which I think they will, Ole Miss can compete for the national championship this season. And our last SEC team, you got something to say, Baldwin? Tennessee, contender or pretender?
I think they're a complete pretender just solely because of the defense. I mean, Joey Aguilar's looked fine when the offense has looked fine. But that's because Josh Heupel, I think his offense is always going to be able to work. My thing is the defense. I mean, I know Arkansas is a good offense, but you got Georgia drop a ton of points on them too. I haven't seen the Mississippi State drop a ton of points on them. I feel like they let up 30-plus every game. So that's my only thing. I eventually think that's going to come to hurt them. It's just that defense. I think it's so mid. I think it's mid even if you're looking outside the SEC. So that's why I'm calling a pretender. And I don't think they stand a chance at making the playoff, and I really don't think they do I guess they stand a chance making the playoff, but I don't think they stand a chance at winning the national championship.
I like what Baldwin talked about their defense, right? I think the question with Tennessee is Joey Aguilar the guy that can run this Josh Heupel offense to perfection? Because remember, they lost their quarterback to the late transfer portal window, made a trade with UCLA pretty much, sending Nico over there. He was terrible for the first couple weeks. Now he's looked amazing with the new OC change. And then bringing Joey Aguilar, who had a great game, a great first half, a great game against Georgia, but didn't quite win the football game, right? And now the question for them this year is pretty much, what is Joey Aguilar going to be for them throughout 12 weeks of football, and can he keep them in there? I think this team has a chance to sneak into the college football playoffs. I can see them pulling up some wins, getting some big wins for them to make the college football playoffs. I do not think they are national title contenders. I can see them sneaking in, maybe pulling up a first-round upset, but I cannot see them winning more than 2 college football playoff games this year, so therefore I would say not a national title contender.
Yeah, I don't see Tennessee making the playoff even. I think they've had 2 close games recently. I know they were up by 17 against Arkansas. The score looked a little closer than it should have been, but then they had to go to overtime against Mississippi State. Not a good look. That Georgia game was huge. They needed that. They put up 45 points, and they couldn't come through with a win. Against a Georgia offense that hasn't blown the brakes off of anybody. That team only put up 23 against Austin Peay, 21 against Alabama, and 20 against Auburn. I mean, that team hasn't been scoring a ton of points, and they doubled everybody else what they gave up. The defense has serious concerns. My question to you guys is, through 4 weeks, everyone said Tennessee clearly won the Nico trade. 3 weeks after that, what do we think, fellas? Who won that trade?
I think the new combination of Nico and his new OC with the cool last name that I do not have enough IQ points to pronounce won the trade. I like Nico. He has looked fantastic these last 2 weeks. That UCLA offense has been humming. Joey Aguilar has looked good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's the player Nico Avila is. Again, not enough IQ points to pronounce that one correctly either. But I do believe that Tennessee lost that move, and I really like Nico as a quarterback.
I honestly think it was more of an even trade because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Josh Heupel's offense has never been running a quarterback around necessarily, using very dual threat. And I feel like what's made UCLA go the last couple of weeks is using Nico's legs. Josh Heupel, I feel like, has always run heavy offense with the running back. So I feel like it was even. It was a good switch for both teams. I mean, Joey Aguilar's looked completely fine. He's probably not the quarterback to win you the really big game. But overall, I feel like it's pretty even. At the end of the day, UCLA is still 2-4, so we can't forget the first 4 games Nico had too. So
Yeah, why is there a narrative out there that both teams can't win a trade? It's always who won the trade. I think both teams won right here. I think Aguilar, like you said, is a better fit for that Tennessee offense. He is 5 touchdowns away from having as many passing touchdowns as Nico had last season. And we still have half a season to go. And Nico, under this new regime, has looked unbelievable. I think both teams are profiting off this. I get the first 4 weeks were bad. I'm going to choose to believe this is a completely new UCLA team. Also, the UCLA offensive coordinator is great, and I don't want to take anything away from him. I have never seen a situation where they are glorifying an offensive coordinator over an interim head coach. I haven't heard anything about this interim head coach at UCLA getting any credit where he totally deserves it. I'm not saying that Jerry Boyd doesn't, frat boy Jerry, but this interim head coach has done a phenomenal job somehow keeping these boys motivated and playing in some big-time games and coming out on top.
the only thing like I've seen, because I've seen someone mention that before about that is like after the game they're like spraying the OC with the water bottle. I don't know how that even happens either though. Like how is it not the interim coach getting sprayed with the water bottles like after the Penn State win? So I don't really know how that's all working, but I feel like there's an underlying thing there that's telling me it's that dude's what's making the team go for some reason. Or maybe it's the fact his dad works for CBS. I don't know what it is, but I agree with you. It's pretty crazy that I don't even know the interim coach's name, but I know the OC's name.
All right, our last one. Oregon, pretender or contender?
I mean, they did just lose by 10 at home, right? But I do think they're still a contender. I think Dante Moore has showed poise, especially getting a huge win in a whiteout. I know that Penn State season kind of derailed after that, but I still think that's a huge win. That's still a very good team, right? That's still a talented team. I think that loss kind of was the nail in the coffin for James Franklin right there, and kind of started the downhill slide. So I think that Dante Moore shows poise. I think even last week, I know Dante Moore had a crucial interception, but I still like him. Right, I still think this Oregon team has enough talent. I'm still a huge Dan Lanning fan. And Tom, I know you picked them preseason to win a national championship. And I would still, without a question, say they are absolute contenders to win the college football national championship this year. And a team that I really like. And I think a loss, it's hard to go undefeated in any league, especially the Big Ten, right? And yeah, I think that loss, it's nothing in the world for them. Their season is still very bright. The future is still very much ahead of them. And I still think they're absolute contenders.
Yeah, I mean, before the Indiana game was played, we were talking about on this very podcast a week ago how the big three were Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon. And just because they lose one game, and obviously it's rough, they're at home, 7-point favorites, doesn't look the best. Obviously, they didn't look their best. But I don't think you can just take them off that list. I mean, obviously it's may bring like your opinion on them a little down. But I think they're still contenders and probably still a top 5 team in America. It's just a fact they might also play a top 5 team in America in Indiana. So I think they're contenders and we'll prove it the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think they're contenders as well, but I think Oregon has a chance to have 2 losses on their schedule before we get to that playoff. They play Washington at the end of the year at Washington, which is going to be a tough game. I think Washington's still going to be fighting for a potential playoff spot. There's a chance they drop that one, but I think they get in at 10-2, just as Ohio State did last season. And I think they can run the table and win it all. Absolutely, I would go contender.
Oregon's got a sneaky Iowa game in there at Kinnick. Never know. Iowa plays teams close.
Just ask Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah. You never know.
All right, well, that'll take us into the last 2 games we'll review. Georgia survives Auburn. I would love to touch on this because at what point do you take Jackson Arnold out of the game? Their defense has given up 23 16, and 24 in the last 3 games, and he's put up 10, 10, and 17 in those games. He has 1 game over 66% completion percentage, and that was against Ball State. He's thrown over 200 yards in 2 of their 6 games. Last game, he averaged 4.4 yards of completion, and I watched every single throw. He had 2 throws over 5 yards downfield that were completed. One of them was 7 yards, and one of them was 9. And on top of that, he has a top 5 receiving core. So unless Auburn's goal was to pay $2.5 million for a white quarterback to run the ball, they have absolutely failed in choosing Jackson Arnold as their starting quarterback, and they need to make a switch. I don't care if it's Deuce Knight. I don't care if it's Ashton Daniels from Stanford. Someone else needs to go in there that can score more than 17 points and get him over the hump in 3 crucial games. Imagine if Auburn won 2 of those. They are a top 10 team in the country, but now they're sitting at 3-3, and their season's over, and no one's going to talk about them the rest of the way until the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, look, I mean, Auburn swung and missed on Jackson Arnold. I don't think that's a question anymore. Now I think you put in Deuce Knight. A chance to revitalize this season, right? Your season's over. All you can do now is try to keep these players around, right? Because they have like you said, a very talented receiving core. You want to keep them around. You want to keep Deuce Knight around, a guy who I think could be very talented. You let him play. You let him get some experience. You let him prove to these wide receivers, the talented outside guys, we're gonna be all right? Deuce Knight's great. He was just young. I think it's Deuce Knight's turn, because this season's already at wash, right? You gotta start thinking about the future, and your future is Deuce Knight. Deuce Knight really has to be great for the Auburn Tigers. Has to be the guy for the Auburn Tigers. Otherwise, that's what over their last 3 swings at trying to get a quality QB for a couple years, right? Like a college version of a franchise quarterback. And yeah, I think that it's Deuce Knight time down there in Auburn.
Yeah, I think you guys touched on everything that needs to be said about the Auburn Tigers. My thing is Kirby's team has not looked that great, but that man just finds a way to win, which I am very impressed with. That's really all I have to say about the game. I'm just very impressed with Kirby Smart always finding a way to win, because he only has 1 loss, and it was to Bama, who looks like the best team in the country right now. So shout out Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia doesn't look phenomenal this year whatsoever. But like you said, they're still Georgia. You can never overlook them, whether they're 9-3, whether they're 11-1, whether they're 5-7. They're Georgia, and you can't overlook that team. And he does find a way to win. I obviously see them making the playoffs still and figuring it out. I think Auburn has they need a 2-step process for the rest of the season. Number 1 is Hugh Freeze needs to show some type of promise to keep his job. He's supposed to be an offensive guy, and they haven't scored points. Number 2, Cam Coleman, top 10 receiver in the country, still has more eligibility. You need to find a way to keep him happy at Auburn, or else he's going to enter the portal and get paid $3 million to find a quarterback that can actually throw him the ball so he can get drafted. Both of those things can come from Deuce Knight if he truly is that guy and does show promise. But the other thing is you don't want to throw that guy in there if he's not ready. Hugh Freeze is very open about the fact that Deuce Knight is a great quarterback and that he's going to be great. I don't know if you saw that interview early on in the season. They asked him about Jackson Arnold. He said, yeah, Jackson's good, but Deuce is going to be special. I mean, he skipped right over it. And we all saw that clip earlier as well of Jackson Arnold missing that throw and Hugh Freeze absolutely going off on him. A lot of people chose to overlook that. Maybe we could have known this was coming all along if we'd looked deeper into that, but you never know on Twitter. They need to find a way to show some type of promise for their future because their defense is here. They have proven they are legit. But if you can't score, you can't win. They say defense wins championships, but if you can't score, you can't win. And they haven't been able to score, and they haven't been able to win. All right, let's shift over from Auburn to Alabama, who also survived and ended a top 3 longest home win streak that the Missouri Tigers had. Bo Pribula let us down, fellas. He had a chance to do something awesome, and he couldn't quite come through. But was it on him?
I thought Bo Pribula played decent. I thought he played a good game, right? He had that Heisman moment, chance to go on the field and beat Alabama, turns the football over. He's getting rushed all day. But I think that game was a testament of how truly good Alabama is. I think that Missouri showed this is a very good football team, and Alabama winning that game, I think, shows that, like Baldwin said earlier, they might be the best team in the country and the national championship favorites right now. Right? I think Missouri's a good football team who's going to be on the precipice of the college football playoffs, a very good team. But I think that win going into a pretty electric environment, even though the stadium is under construction. A Missouri team who hasn't been good for a while, who's better last year, but now they're starting to turn that corner with Drink. And I think that was a huge win for Alabama Crimson Tide. And I wouldn't say there's anything bad to say about Bo Pribula, how good he is. I think it was just more of a tip your cap win to Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Jay kind of already touched on, I think it was more to do with Bama because I think like Mizzou, obviously, it didn't look like they were a bad team, and obviously still a very good team. I think the biggest thing was they stopped Ahmad Hardy, and that's kind of what makes Mizzou's offense go. Because without that, you put a lot more on Bo Prib's shoulders. So I feel like that was the big part. But I also that's the game. It was a good game. I want to talk about like the implications of this. So Bama, if you looked at their schedule, they have like 7 hard games. They're 3-0 in the stretch right now. I got them at, but they got Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, then Oklahoma. I just see them winning that game as huge for them because I think out of those, what is that, five more or 4 more? I think they might lose one more of them. They already have a loss on the year, so I think that's huge for them. And Mizzou's schedule too, I think that one really hurts for them because they play Auburn this week at Auburn, and they are not favored in that game. Then they have to go to Vandy. Then they have A&M at home. Then they play State at home. Should be able to get that one. Then they go on the road to Oklahoma, and then they got Arkansas, which is obviously a rivalry game. So Mizzou, I thought that was a big L for them. If they were able to get that one, I think they could have gotten the playoffs. But now that they didn't, I think they're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, that one definitely hurts for the Tigers. Like you said, they got a few tough road games coming up, and after those road games, they got to host Texas A&M, who looks unbelievable right now too, which if they get through those 2 road games, once again, we got another playoff game in November between them and Texas A&M. Ty Simpson didn't even play great. That's where I'm most impressed with Alabama because when they've been winning, he's been absolutely shredding defenses, and he threw for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, but he missed a lot of throws that game. Made a few poor decisions. Didn't turn the ball over, though. Kept him in the game, which is what he does. Ty Simpson is playing out of his mind right now. Somehow he's not favored for the Heisman. Carson Beck jumped him this week, which is kind of fun. You know I love Carson Beck. But Alabama looks really good. If they were ranked ahead of every SEC team in the AP poll, I wouldn't sit here and tell you that's incorrect. Even Texas A&M, I think Alabama should be ranked ahead of Ole Miss. I think they should be ahead of every one-loss team, which they already are. But even the undefeated teams, I think there's a genuine case you can make for them that they just had a week 1 blunder.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ty Simpson, I think, has to be the high. I mean, I guess he's not right now, but he is firmly in the race for Heisman Trophy without a question. He's fantastic. I think Alabama showed that, look, when Ty Simpson's on, we're really good. When Ty Simpson's off, we're still really tough to beat, and we're still a good football team. I think that's in Alabama. That was a statement victory for Alabama, letting the world know, yeah, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? We Bama. We back. Kalen DeBoer. He good.
What's
he all
up?
right. We Bama, what's up? What's up? We Bama. Roll Tide, roll, baby. Roll Tide, roll. Roll Tide, roll. That's what it was. Come on now. Roll Tide, roll.
I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide, baby. Woo!
So if you guys are the New York Jets and you have the number 1 overall pick, which quarterback are you taking?
Martin Luther Stubb. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around. Give me Ty Simpson. He's a dog, man. I love Ty Simpson. Some people have called him Nick Saban's last project. I like it. Francisco Mendoza, dog. I like him too. Dante Moore, dog. Like him too. But I love me some Ty Simpson now. I love me some Ty Simpson. Baldwin, don't say Arch Manning, bro.
Arch Manning, baby. He's coming for it. Nah, that's next year. Next year, number 1 pick. He's coming back to Texas. So you got Arch next year. And this year, I mean, I think you got 3 right now. I think you got Dante Moore, Mendoza, and then Ty Simpson. If I had to lean one right now, I'd probably go Dante Moore. I just think the talent's higher. But, yeah, I think all those 3 are so close.
Why does nobody talk about Carson Beck as a potential number 1 pick? Because 2 years ago we did, and I understand he had a rough 4-game stretch last year where he was throwing a bunch of interceptions. He obviously had a tough last year, and if you were to tell me he wasn't in consideration, and I didn't watch any college football, I would say, gotta be a mobility issue. But you got Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson in there. They're not the most mobile guys in the world. And Carson Beck's proven he can do it in 2 different systems. I don't know why I haven't seen him in a single mock going even in the first round. He's a really good thrower of the football. He makes good decisions. He had a few rough picks against South Florida, but I think he was just getting greedy because he knew he had a lead. Trying to see what he can get away with. Carson Beck has been playing unreal this year. And I think he should legitimately have a shot at number 1.
I like it. We all got something different. I like it. Now let's argue to the death about it. Fuck you guys. You guys are stupid. It's all like Ty Simpson.
Hey, man, if my boy Ty Simpson went number 1, I'd be okay with it. Too bad he unfollowed after the rebrand. Baldy, you got some trivia for us? It's trivia time. It's college football trivia time. What do you got, Baldy?
All right, first question. 2006 Rose Bowl, Texas, USC. What was the final score?
I don't know the final score, but I know it ended USC's 34-game winning streak. Does that count?
It does not count. What I'll tell you is a hint, high-scoring game.
Bro, was that this? There's a big-ass spider in my basement right now, bro. Oh, my God. It's like Daddy Longlegs. This thing is fucking huge. Oh my
I
God.
want to say 41-38.
Bang! Bang, first guess.
That's awesome.
I didn't even make you say a team, but I found that impressive enough to...
Texas won, bro.
Yeah.
That was the Vince Young year. Oh, my God.
Tom, that's unreal. Oh.
Oh, man. You got another one?
I do. This one gets even harder. But so we could just pass. But
Just ask it.
all right. Who was the first winner of the Heisman Trophy?
Jim Thorpe.
No.
Bro, he went to Chicago State, didn't he?
Yeah, tell me-
I don't even know. I just looked it up.
I'll just look at my wallpaper.
Yep, he
Yeah,
went to the University of Chicago.
Yeah, we got a photo with the Heisman Trophy. I couldn't tell you who won it.
All right. Hopefully I'm saying this right. I'm assuming we're giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay Burwanger.
Berwinger.
Would have
Good for
never
you.
gotten that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Baldwin. Let's try to keep it in our lifetime here, not kid.
Hey man, had to throw a crazy one in there. All right, this one is a little easier. Who is the passing yards leader this year currently?
Aguilera at Tennessee.
Nope.
Ty Simpson?
Nope.
No,
Not in the Big Ten or SEC.
not Brendan Morton. He's been dealing with injuries.
Josh Hoover.
He is number 2.
Is it? No, Haynes King uses his legs too much.
You're on the right track with the TCU.
Not
Sawyer
Brendan
Robinson.
Bang.
Oh,
Sawyer
man.
Robinson with 2,058.
Wow.
Okay. Am I whipping out another one?
Yeah, you got one more, and then I'll give a few.
All right.
Actually, I'll save mine for Thursday.
All right. This one's also not in our lifetime, but you guys might be able to get it. I don't know. Who is the all-time NCAA rushing yards leader?
Barry Sanders.
Jim Brown.
No. Not according to this list. Because I don't even see any of them.
Herschel Walker.
No. This guy actually was from our lifetime and did not
He go to
play.
San Diego State.
Yes.
Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, what's his name?
Last name starts with a P.
It's AP, right?
It's
Not like
DP.
Alexander Peterson.
It's his initials.
San Diego State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played 2013, 14, 15, and 16 there.
Dude, I remember he's so lit.
Not Rashad Penny.
Nope.
Was he like number 27?
That I could not tell you.
Dude, he was in the same Heisman race as Derrick Henry. No, that was 2015. He was in a big time Heisman race. What was that? 2013? Would that be that'd be RG3?
He played for the Eagles, his first team, then the Lions. He was kind of all over the place in the NFL.
Dude.
But
Not Rashad
Wait, what were the
Penny.
initials? E?
DP. It's kind of a weird name, so.
His last name's not Price, right?
Nope. What if I give you the first name? Can you get the last name? You want to flip
Probably.
that out?
Harold, something like that.
All right. Donald.
Oh, dog! Donald Perelman.
That did not help at all, did it? I would have known this either.
What's the second letter of the last name?
You.
Plumnut.
Pum. Donald Pum.
Pumkowski.
Donald Pum.
All right, I think it's time just to rip it.
Donald
No,
Pumpkin
another
Eater.
letter.
Another letter. P. So Pump.
Pompier.
Nope.
One more letter.
H. Pumph.
Krampus? I don't know.
Donald
I have no
Dunphy.
Duh.
Oh well, it's a P at the start, but you're on the right track there. So
Donald Pumphy.
Perhouse.
Donald Pumphrey, close enough.
That's
What
gotta
was
be
it?
a fake stat.
God, there's like a debate with the Wisconsin. There's a debate with the Wisconsin running back apparently, because like they didn't
Monte
include his
Ball?
bowl games.
Yeah, it's got to be Monte Ball.
No, it was Ron Dane before our lifetime.
Oh. I don't know who that is. I don't know why I said, oh.
Jonathan Taylor's in the 4, according to this.
Dude, is that real? Donald
Yeah, man.
Pumphrey. No way his last name was P and it wasn't Rashad Penny. I thought thought Rashad Penny was in the Heisman race.
There is actually 2 San Diego State players above Rashad Penny on this list.
And one of them was Donald Dempierre.
Marquise Cooper's the other one.
Cooper.
Wow. Donald Pumphrey. What was his name again?
Donald Pumphrey, like Pumphry.
Wow, you learn something new every day. Donald Pumphrey. Wow.
Who won the national championship in 2003?
USC.
Wrong.
Ohio State.
Wrong. That was you're missing a year in there. That was
Oh my God.
Ohio State was 02 and Southern California was 04.
Jay, you got to get a guess off before I go. I keep jumping, and I have my next answer.
Bro, was it? No, it wasn't Michigan. Was it LSU in 2003?
Bang.
My undefeated record goes.
You gave him a
I had
chance.
no clue. It was LSU.
I was going to
like,
guess Florida, but I think that
That
was
was a lucky
06.
fucking guess. It was LSU. Holy shit.
Florida was 06.
What was the split year between Ohio State and USC? Was that was that 02?
Oh, wait. Now that I'm looking at this, Tom's on to something. 03, I got LSU in Southern California. So it was originally USC. See, guys, the undefeated record might not be gone.
Oh,
Asterisk. There's an asterisk there.
There's half a point to each person. Cocksucker.
You know what? It's okay. Why didn't they have a national championship? Isn't that unbelievable? They didn't have a national championship before like
So
2004.
unbelievable. Like, that's actually crazy. How do you not have one game to decide it? Like, that's ridiculous to me. It's so stupid. Thank gosh they added it back.
That's nuts. Well, after that shit show of trivia, that's going to take us to a close. Baldwin, you know what you have to do.
What do you got?